Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Wealth Conversation podcast with me, Tsitsi Mutiti. I guide high-achieving women on their journey to build lasting wealth so they can prepare for an abundant future in every area of their life. I hope that today's episode will help you to transform your relationship with money so you can make the choices that will enable you to create the opportunities and lasting wealth that you desire. Let's get straight into this week's episode. I recently had the honor of being a guest on the Think.Create.Initiate podcast, hosted by the phenomenal Grace Nelson and Charlotte Barrett. Grace and Charlotte have made it their mission to support women to create additional streams of income whilst in a job. In this episode, I share my definition of wealth, how I developed my signature method, the Choices Blueprint, as well as why I believe it is important to acknowledge our past so we can have a healthier relationship with money.
Excellent. So I am excited to be here in this space with another podcast episode. And just to let those of you that are listening now, we do actually stream this live into our Facebook group membership as well, so that all the ladies there have a chance to indulge in this conversation. And the monthly theme within the membership at the moment is all about wealth, what it means to be wealthy. So I am very excited to be joined by the fabulous Tsitsi Mutiti, who is a wealth coach, and she is the founder of the Wealth Conversation. So that's part of, it all feeds into her blueprint method, but it's also the very premise to which she's able to actually have this fantastic coaching business as well. So I'm not going to give away too much, because obviously that's what we've got our guests here for. So without further ado, welcome, Tsitsi. How are you?
I'm great, Grace. Thank you so much for having me. It's so weird being the guest.
Yeah, it must be, yeah.
I was about to welcome you because I'm so used to welcoming people onto my podcast. But yeah, no, it's great to be on the other side.
I love it. So we will have people on the live as well. So I'm just going to double check something. Oh, yes, there we are. We've got Nadine live with us. Thank you.
Fabulous.
Nadine,
Hi.
thank you for saying this. Hello, Nadine. Brilliant. Well, let's kickstart. I know those listening, those watching, and those catching on the replay are itching to get stuck into this juicy conversation. So, Tsitsi, it would be brilliant if you could just start with just introducing yourself and just sharing what exactly it is that you do.
Okay, so as Grace has mentioned, my name is Tsitsi Mutiti. I wear several hats, including being a wealth manager. So I work in the City of London and manage money for individuals. I'm also a wealth coach. I started my wealth coaching business a couple of years back, and it was my way of trying to bridge the gap between the ultra high net worth people that I serve in my 9 to 5 and those who were like me, who are trying to create wealth, build wealth, and protect their wealth as well. But I'm also a mother. And when I got into the financial services sector, I got in as a single mother, and I started right at the bottom. I was an administrator and I worked my way up. But yes, I've always wanted more out of life and always felt I could do more. This is why I'm now working in a 9 to 5 and running my own business. And I'm really passionate about just getting people to understand what one true wealth is, and also just really getting to the bottom of how they can create the lifestyle that they want, but also building generational wealth. I think it's really, really important, especially in certain communities around the globe. The whole generational wealth piece is not discussed as much as it is in other communities. And that's part of the reason why I called my business The Wealth Conversation. It's really about us getting comfortable talking about wealth in all its aspects and passing on that knowledge to others who might not know as much as we do, but more importantly, the next generation, because they're going to be the custodians of what we are building now.
Yeah. I love that. What a powerful intro. Thank you so much, Sitsi, for that. And I think you have a beautiful mission, in terms of creating, building, and protecting wealth, like you said in the beginning.
Yeah.
And wealth, the subject, the topic, the theme is something is rarely discussed, I must say. As you said, in certain communities, which the Black community, to which we're
Yeah.
in, more importantly. And I think well, the whole thing about money and what that means as well, it's kind of those that want to do more, be more, and have more, but might come from disadvantaged backgrounds, might think that they're limited, they're restricted in
Yeah.
what they do. And seeing other people out there who they deem as wealthy, they might feel that that's so far out of reach for them. So it's good to have relatable people like yourselves as a mentor to show people that you can.
Yeah. It's so true, Grace. And I mean, I was one of those people, and I have that sometimes come into my mind when I'm getting to another level. I've been through it where I'm trying to save. And I remember the first time I tried saving money after getting out of debt, and I was like, oh, I've got £500, and it just disappeared all of a sudden. And it took me ages to build myself up to that. And I didn't understand what was causing all this, like, now I've got it, now I don't. And now it's so difficult to get back to square one. And it was the fact that I didn't understand how this whole money thing worked, but I also felt that having money wasn't something that someone like me should have. Like it wasn't part of my story. So I was actually repelling money without even realizing it, and now it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was saying how I had saved so much money and put it towards my deposit. I bought a house at the end of 2020. And
congratulations once
again. Thank you. Thank you. So my husband and I were saving together, but I was always saving on my own. So we had to move quickly, put the money put my savings into the deposit. And I thought, how am I going to build this up again? And I tell you, in less than 12 months, I had that money back and more.
Yes. Well,
just
look at
from
that. Yes.
I didn't do anything significant. I just, I had a formula in place, and I just kept stuck to it. Yeah.
I guess it definitely begins with a switch, because sometimes when we look at our external reality and we see maybe family members or friends who are at a certain financial position, we kind of feel maybe that's our limit. But, like you said, once you've reached that new next level, you can keep on reaching it again and surpassing that.
Yeah. And actually, to get to the next level, you just have to keep doing what you've been doing. Like it's really about the foundation. If you've got a solid foundation, it's easy.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Or should I say it's doable?
Doable, yes. Yes,
doable.
I love that. Yes. And we've got a comment, agreed. Generational wealth is so important. So please do drop your questions, so I can ask the guru here, the expert. We've got her for the next 20, 25 minutes or so. So it's going to be a good one. So Sitsi, talk to us about the biggest breakthrough that you've had in your business so far.
You know what? I'd have to say it's actually got nothing to do with money. Because, when it comes to running a business, there are all these moving parts. And, as a solopreneur, it's you wear all these different hats. So I guess I'll give you two, because I think they talk about different things. So the first one is having a podcast, right? I struggled for a long time to be visible. Again, I've got these things going on in my head telling me that, everything needs to be perfect. So it was taking me so long to put a post out on Instagram or whatever. But then I thought, let me think, what is the easiest thing for me to do? And I love talking, like I can talk for days. So then I thought, okay, podcast. So, and, I've got 35 episodes out already, and I only started the podcast.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I only started it in July. So I think being more confident about being out there and actually putting out the wealth conversations that I'm having with people. Because that was the other thing that I was struggling with. I'm having all these amazing conversations with people. I'm learning from people as well about wealth, their wealth stories, what they're doing. But I wasn't able to share that with people. So that is, I think, the really biggest breakthrough. But then the other one I wanted to say was actually getting an accountant to help me with the money for my business. That
Yes, of
was,
course.
and it's all part of the delegation piece, is it? But I mean, my knowledge about money is higher than a lot of people. But when it comes to really dealing with it in terms of your personal finances and business, I right from the beginning, I said I'm going to separate the two. And
Yes.
it then made it so easy for me to know, like, what are my running costs for this business? So I know that every month I have to be able to make X. Whereas, a few months before, I was kind of struggling with, just pumping money into the business and not really knowing where it was going.
Yeah. I think it's so important. I mean, an accountant has definitely been a lifesaver for mine and Charlotte's business, just to know
Yeah.
what's coming in, what's going out, and to make sure, we're in profit. That's what business is all about. We all want to
Yeah.
be in profit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
And also someone to say, why are you doing this? Like, because if you're answerable to yourself.
it's true. We can always make excuses or go easy on ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I love that. And I would definitely recommend, if you're listening, go check out Sitsy's podcast, The Wealth Conversation. It's a brilliant listen. So make sure that you do subscribe, like, and share as well when you join. So, Sitsy, we do have questions here, but I want to ask one important question before
Okay.
we dive in. So, wealth. I would love to hear your personal definition of wealth and what it means to be wealthy.
Yeah. So my personal definition of wealth is really about having all aspects of my life in alignment. So my physical, mental, spiritual, social, and financial well-being. I think it's really important to take the holistic view, because for a long time I was really focusing on the money side, right? Like just
Yes,
money.
yes.
But, without, you can have all the money in the world. And I work with people who've got a lot of money. But if you're not well, you won't be able to enjoy it.
Yes.
And if you're not mentally resilient, you won't be able to, for instance, if you're investing, you won't be able to navigate the dips in the market. Or if you're running a business, you won't be able to navigate those slow times in the business. So I think it's really about making sure all those 5 areas of my life are in alignment, so that I can create the lifestyle that I desire on my terms, and no one else's. Yeah. And then that way I can then create true wealth in all the senses, and pass that on to my daughter, who is the next generation for me.
Yes.
And wealth, and I think when all those areas are in alignment, you can really create a solid foundation where the next generation and the following generation can just build upon that.
Yeah, I love that. It's a powerful definition. And I definitely agree. I love the holistic approach because, before I started this entrepreneurial journey, a bit like yourself, when I thought of wealth, I just thought about money. Everything
Yeah,
was focused on money. But then, just zooming out alongside of that, it's a feeling. When you're wealthy, it's a feeling. It's quite emotional. So you want to
it is.
feel that fulfillment,
Mm,
that abundance, and it's not just the money that will bring you that. So that's why
yeah,
there's other areas that you touched upon are so important. So
yeah.
thank you for sharing. So now let's dive into the questions that have been posted. Do you
Okay.
think it's best to build up a freedom fund first, say to cover 6 months expenses, before investing, or do both?
Well, this is a question that I get asked all the time.
I bet.
And really, it depends on your circumstances. I think and your circumstances and how you've dealt with money before, right?
Mm,
For some people, they can do the two together, because, it comes down to discipline to be able to do that. But generally, the rule of thumb is build your freedom fund first, right? Because you want to have something as a buffer that you can fall on, or take money from if things go wrong, so that if your investment is going down, you're not selling out of your investments at the wrong time. Yeah. So it really depends on everyone's situation. But I would say, if I was pushed to give one answer, definitely build your freedom fund first. The problem that people have is they don't know when to stop. Like, how much do I actually need?
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
And that's where the answer is. If you know what you're aiming for, then you know that when I reach X amount, so let's say if it's 5,000, when you reach 5,000, then the rest can now go to investing or whatever, or investing in your business.
Yeah. And I agree. It is quite a subjective thing, because freedom for one person is going to look very different to somebody else. For
Yeah.
example, freedom for somebody could be just, 2,000, even 1,500 a
Yeah.
month. And
Yeah.
that could, cover all of the expenses and really keep them, living in lux mode, as it were,
Yeah.
going forward. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. So this is another brilliant question. So do you notice that with the clients who improve their relationship with money, do you notice if they continue to maybe attract situations like a partner, family, etc., needing financial help instead? So as they're improving their side, they're attracting maybe people that kind of are, what's the word, leaning on them or relying on them.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. And
These are good questions.
it's a
Keep them coming.
situation that a lot of people find themselves in. And again, it depends on the type of community you're in. I guess I could say, generalizing it, in the Black community, you'd probably find that that's quite common. And it boils down to that generational wealth piece. We haven't been able to create that solid generational wealth that people can benefit from, and people in different parts of the family can benefit from. For example, some people set up trusts which then support decades and decades of family members, along, for centuries. And a lot of us don't have that in our family. So it's I'm trying not to say something that's going to make people feel like, so I don't want to make money because then I'm going to have people, because these are one of the this is a block that actually comes up a lot of the times when I'm coaching people, that there is this fear that if I make money, people are just going to be coming to me for money. So the way I deal with it, and it's something I went through myself, is just deciding, how far do I want to support people, if that is what you want to do, and then making it clear that this is as far as I can go. And also, if you can't support them, then you can't. What I say now is, for me to be able to give to you, I need to be giving from, a cup that's overflowing. I can't give from an empty cup. So if I can't feed myself, it goes back to my definition of wealth. So if I'm not healthy, if I'm stressed, if I'm not around the right people, etc., how am I supposed to support you? Because it's all taking out from me. So I would always say, make sure, look after number one, because if it becomes a situation where you can't look after yourself, then a lot of people will end up losing out.
Yes, I totally agree. I love that response. And I think it's just a question of setting personal boundaries, to be honest.
Definitely.
Because I've been in that situation like yourself, where family members have, become wholly reliant on the income that I'm earning. And, when it becomes a continual thing, it can kind of drain you energetically.
It does.
And it's also a question of, if they're having financial struggles, it's reaching out to them, not sometimes by you giving them money is probably the fuel for something much more worse. So maybe it's sitting down and kind of looking at their finances, if they're willing and open.
Exactly. It's about the conversation again. It's about having a conversation and understanding. I have had conversations with very close family members where I've had to say to them, I can't keep doing this, because my dreams are, I want this for myself, but I can't get there because I'm always giving. But at the same time, I'm a giver. So, the moment something happens, I'm like, what do you need? Oh, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I'm like, that's right.
It's so easy. Like, what? Send me your bank details. So I've also had to teach myself to be like, no, you need to stop, because sometimes when we help somebody, we're actually blocking the lesson, and we're blocking the lesson that is there for them, and the experience that they need to go through so they can break through that cycle.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
So I would definitely say have those conversations, and
They're
start
uncomfortable
small.
conversations.
They are uncomfortable. But the thing is, after the conversation and when the person has gone past that stage, they will be able to flourish. And it's the most amazing, that is the most amazing thing you can give them.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that is the true gift, not the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a comment here. Yes, wish more of the community will focus on generational wealth and working together. As we do see, there's a bit of a divide or disconnect in some communities where they want to they want to go ahead and not really
Yeah.
help others. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's something, again, within the wealth conversation, is something I guess is continually addressed.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the one thing, the biggest thing is fear. That question about when your wealth expands, do you find that more people are coming to you? There's this fear. People assume that that's what's going to happen. But actually, what about, if you don't expand your wealth in all aspects, and if you don't focus on creating generational wealth and being that multimillionaire that you really want to be deep down, think about the number of people who aren't your family who will miss out on a role model and miss out on the thing that a lot of us have been craving, which is being able to say, I can be like that person because they look like me.
Yes.
Look at what they've done. Look at their story. So by holding ourselves back, we are taking away from so many other people.
Yes. I completely agree. Yeah, you're almost doing yourself a disservice and the wider community a disservice by not
Exactly.
going forward.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So since you've got a blueprint framework, I believe it's called Choices.
Yes,
Is that correct?
the Choices
Yes.
Blueprint. Yes, it is.
Yes. So I would love for you just to share a bit more as to what Choices actually stands for and kind of what the framework actually walks you through as well.
Sure. Yeah. So it's actually 7 steps. And initially, I was using it for my one-to-one coaching clients, but we'll talk about how I use it later on, hopefully. And I came up with the word choices because each letter stands for a step. So the first C is about clarity, and that's the first step. So getting clear on where you are now and where you want to be. Because I believe that if you're not honest with yourself about your current situation, it will be difficult to map out, what you need to do to get to your goal, goal number 1, goal number 2. And a lot of the time people are looking at goal number 10 and wanting to go straight there without realizing that you have to take those small steps. And you won't know which step to take if you're not clear on where you're starting from. So that's the first step. The second step is represented by H, which is habits and money mindset. One of the key things is to understand yourself. What are the habits? What are the triggers? What are the stories that you have about money? For example, that question about expanding your wealth is, do you have this inner fear that people will be coming to you for money if you have more money? So what are all those things, identifying them? And then the third step is overcoming, which is overcoming those beliefs and focusing on the reality as opposed to your interpretation of reality. So we've done CHO. The next one is I, which is identifying your values and your wealth intentions, which is really important because for me, I'll talk about my personal story. I was just kind of going through life and, it was all about, I need to get a job. I need to be working. I need to pay bills. And not really clear on what is it that I really want for myself in terms of my wealth intentions and what is it that I value. And one of the things that I value is being able to give to others. So identifying those is really important because then whatever your actions are going forward should be in alignment with those values and the wealth intentions. And then we go to the second C, which is now commit to everything that you've done from clarity, habits, overcoming limiting beliefs and identifying. Commit to the plan. And then E is for evaluate, which is about evaluating your financial circumstances. And that's when we look at the figures and the money. And then the last step is securing your financial future. And that talks about things like looking at do you have enough insurance? Do you have insurance cover for certain things? If you've got children, how are you going to manage school fees if you want to send them to private education? But also, how are you going to protect whatever it is that you're building? And do you have a will in place, power of attorney, all those things, which, it's amazing how many blocks people have to actually putting those things in place. And unless you do the work, go through those first 6 steps, it's difficult to kind of get to the point where you're actually now looking at securing whatever it is you're building now and in the future.
I love that. What an excellent framework. And I love the blend between the kind of the mindset stuff, the deeper inner work that you need to do, and the practical stuff as well, as you navigate through. So brilliant. Okay, so that's choices, a 7-letter acronym. Just one question actually, and I think it kind of feeds on to what you've just described. So the question is, what did you both do to break old cycles or blocks around money?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It was, I wish I'd had my framework then. Because when I take
thought of it earlier, yes.
Yeah, I know. When I take clients through it, I'm like, oh my goodness, this took me like 5 years to kind of work through. But it was, for me, it was the clarity piece. It was just getting clear on where do I want to be? What is the lifestyle that I really want for myself and my daughter and my family? And then where am I now? And, what are the steps that I need to take to get there? And once you know what you need to do, it's easy. It becomes easier to commit to doing that. If you really, really, if what you're saying is your goal, is really your goal. And that's why looking at your values is important. It's not easy because sometimes you'll find that you're on the journey on your own. And if we're talking about our community, there are a lot of people who find themselves on their own on this journey. But someone has to break through, right? And break out and break the cycle for others to follow. So, and another thing is just finding a community and other people who are on the same journey with me. That was really helpful, and once I was able to find people who kind of understood what I was trying to do and had been on the same journey and were able to talk honestly, not about their successes, but also their failures. And I think that was the important thing, because my story is about, being in debt, moving from a different country to the UK, not understanding the system, going into debt because I was giving money to people, supporting people, so I couldn't support myself. And getting to a point where I was like, I've literally destroyed my life. Everything's gonna go downhill. To me, just saying, this is not what I want. This is not how I want to feel. I do not want to be stressed or thinking that I'm walking down the street and people are seeing that, I'm owing money, written, she owes money.
Yeah.
So it was that where I was like, no. And it was actually a conversation with someone that got me into feeling more comfortable about, yes, I can do this. There are ways out of this situation. So if I was to sum it up, I'd say understanding what you want, being honest with yourself, committing to the plan, and also talking to people who've been there, who've been where you are now and have overcome.
Brilliant. And I definitely concur with that, Tsitsi, in terms of, we have the same core values. Me, myself, I'm also a giver as well. And part of my future mission is to set up a foundation where I can give back and seed fund the dreams of young people, so the next generation start their own businesses. But growing up, I have to say, I used to spend money. I lived quite a frivolous lifestyle, spending money when I was younger, credit cards and swiping here and there. I didn't value money or kind of, in terms of having that attachment to money. It didn't really mean anything to me, because I always felt that, my mum and dad were there. I can ask them for money if ever I got low. So, just growing up, just like you said, it's really kind of taking stock as to, is this the life I want to be living, where I'm always low, I've racked up a lot of debt, and I'm always going to the bank of mum and dad. So it was a wake-up call for me. And
Yeah.
that's when I started to actively pay down my debt, until I became debt free. And then just more conscious when it comes to, is this anything that comes in, opportunities that come my way, etc. Is it aligning with my future goal, my future mission? Is this where I want to be redirecting my money? So kind of taking stock of that as well. And now just having a more deeper sense of appreciation for money. As well as reframing all of those old beliefs that I was holding on to about money. That money's hard to come by, or you have to work really, really hard to make money. And sometimes, sometimes I find myself, I do slip back into that mindset mode of you have to work really, really hard to make money. But it's kind of catching yourself now and reframing that story, like you were saying.
Yeah, you've made some really good points there, Grace, because one thing I should have actually said about, how I managed to overcome my money issues was really understanding my money story. What was it that I was telling myself, and why was I acting in that way? And a lot of it had to do with what I had gone through and experienced in childhood. And the main thing for me was losing my parents. And I had this story that, so by the time I was 17, both my parents had passed away. And so I unknowingly had this story in my head about how anything good or stable is not meant for me. So if I had money, I would literally give it away. I remember I got a check from the tax authorities here one year because I'd overpaid tax. Right. I gave the money away. I was like literally like, oh, here you go, here you like, and I was genuine, and people were like, oh no, and I gave it away because every and I was like, there was this cycle of every time I had money, it would just go, because I had this thing in my head that anything that will give me joy or happiness will be either be taken away, or it's just not meant for me. And because I interpreted my parents passing as that, and actually that wasn't reality, it was just my interpretation. And then it fed into my money and my actions.
That's such a powerful share. And I guess it takes for you to take that time out to kind of uproot all these beliefs, that money story, as you were saying. Where's it come from? What's the trigger event in your life? It stems back to childhood for many of us, or things somebody else has said that you kind of just, it's that self-fulfilling prophecy. I was told I was a spendthrift, so I became more of a spendthrift.
Exactly.
So powerful share. So a few more questions.
Okay.
I'm really getting into this now. So how do you, and I guess we've touched upon it now, but how do you kind of look past your current situation, especially if you're, riddled with debt, etc., to start to have a healthier relationship with money?
Yeah, I love that question. If I'm honest, I would say don't look past it, but actually look into it and understand why you are in that. And it's not about beating yourself up, but it's actually kind of like taking a bird's eye view and looking at the situation and saying, first of all, what is the situation, and why am I in this situation? And I'll use my story again. Like when I decided I had enough, I can't continue in this cycle anymore. The first thing I did was grab my laptop and create a spreadsheet of everything I owed, who I owed it to, what the interest rates were. And when I really looked at it, I was like, it's not as bad as my mind was making it out to be. Because everything was now together. And I actually do an exercise with my coaching clients where we put everything together on one page, so I could see it all. And I was just like, why did you do this? Because it's so simple. You can then see, again, it's that clarity piece, right? You can now see all the moving parts, and over time you'll be able to see what you need to do, where maybe you need to cut down so you can pay more to your debts, etc. So I think really looking into your current situation, understanding it, will then help you to get out and move past it. Because sometimes we think we've moved past, but actually we're carrying it with us. we've just ignored it, we've bypassed it, right? We've walked past it, and but we're still dragging it along with us.
Yes.
Whereas if you can actually like literally destroy it, and because those behaviors, if you don't really deal with them at the beginning, they will come back again.
Yes.
It just needs one trigger event, or as you've said, somebody to say something, and you're back in that behavior, in that cycle.
Exactly. And it really starts now with getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Yes, it's you know, if you're riddled with debt, it's uncomfortable to kind of look at those numbers. But like you said, you know, just seeing it in black and white, it will actually put things into perspective that it's not as bad as you thought, you know, and you kind of see, okay, if I pay a bit here, a bit there, I can easily get this down over, you know, X amount of months or, you know, a year or so. And it starts, the more practical you get about it, I guess, the more easier you can kind of see yourself coming out of debt if you're in debt as well.
And a lot of the time people think that they're the only one going through it because we're not talking about it. And, you know, I just wish that people were talking about these situations with me, because it wouldn't have taken me that long to kind of get out of it. But yeah, people keep it to themselves. They're suffering on their own. Meanwhile, you know, there's millions of people in that same cycle. And I'm not saying it's you know, let's all come together and talk about our woes, but it's about let's support each other to get out of it. And at least if you know you're not alone, it makes it easier. It kind of normalizes it in a way and doesn't make you feel like you're this weird person who has made a terrible mistake, and you know you're never going to be able to borrow money to get a mortgage or whatever, because that's how sometimes you feel, right? When you're in debt, people are like, oh, your credit score is going to be shot, no one wants to give you, and it's like everything, your life is over, when actually no, it's not. It's something that happens, and you know you can get out of it.
And I think it's important, you know, like you said, being around other like-minded people so that you can collect evidence to see, you know, for me, for example, I've known coaches that have gone bankrupt, you know, they were bankrupt, you know, and I think that lasts for 7 years. And now they're making multi-millions per month, not even per year. So it's just a case of confronting the situation, you know, not dismissing those, you know, reminders, that those letters that come in the post. You know, I used to do that. I remember I used to kind of it's confronting it, embracing it, and doing the uncomfortable now so it gets comfortable later, as you said. So I would love for you to share, as we wind down this fantastic conversation, the wealth conversation, what are your biggest shares for any entrepreneurs that are now embarking upon the journey of kind of building up their wealth, retaining wealth?
I think number one would be to really understand how you benefit from your business. You know, a lot of us go into business because, especially the coaching world, because we want to help. So a lot of us tend to be givers. So I'm not surprised you're a giver and I'm a giver, because, you know, we want to help, genuinely help people. But we never think about what you're going to make out of it, you know, so really thinking about, you know, being clear on how much money you've put into the business and how you'd be able to take that money out, because the business must operate on its own. It shouldn't be you pumping money into the business. And I'm very guilty of that, which is why having my accountant is so great, because she can be like, you have put X amount into this business this year. How are you going to, you need a plan to take it, you know, so that's a practical thing. I'm telling myself this as I'm saying it.
No, this is very practical. I'm guilty of that as well.
Yeah. So I think about giving to yourself as well. And so that's a money thing. And I guess the other thing I would say is, you know, delegate. We can't do everything. And I learned that the hard way. I was fighting with Instagram and Facebook and stuff for it.
That good old fight. Yes, we've all been there.
You know, the good old fight and trying to do things. And, you know, and it's like, if you're doing everything, you're not going to be able to do anything, because, you know, or at least you won't be able to do anything, you know, everything to a high standard. So focus on your strengths and try and get the other things delegated out. And your main focus should be bringing in the money generating activities. Yeah.
I love that. And on that note, actually, I've got a mantra for your last point, which is do what you do best and outsource the rest.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
It's a good
Easier
way to
said
remember.
than done.
Yeah. So, Sitsi, tell us, what are you working on now? What's coming up in your world?
Yeah, so I am currently working on launching a 4-week group coaching program, which is targeted at female entrepreneurs. And we'll be going through my blueprint. It's a 4-week intensive. I'm hoping to launch it end of March, but don't hold me to it. I will
Sitsi's a busy woman.
Yes, yeah. So, and I'm really excited about that because I have been doing one-to-one coaching, but myself, I go onto a lot of coaching programs. They're always group coaching programs, and the value of group coaching is just, it's, you can't even put a price to it because not only are you learning from the coach, but you're learning from each other, and you've got that accountability, and you're walking the journey with people who are at the same place as you are. And you create a community, which are all things that I wish I had when I was at the beginning of this kind of wealth journey for myself. And I'm still on the journey. I haven't even reached my goals yet, but being able to go on the journey with people, like-minded people, is amazing.
Yes.
So yes, I'm building that, and I really want it to be an excellent thing where people can, really leave there with so much knowledge and a really solid foundation. So it's all practical. I'm not a theory person. I want to be doing the thing. So by the time the 4 weeks is over, there'll be definitely a solid foundation, and you'll understand, you're going to be clear on where you want to go. You're going to understand, the habits and limiting beliefs that you have that are impacting you personally and in your business. And the reason why I want to work with female entrepreneurs is a lot of the stuff we do with our personal money, we actually do with our business money as well.
Yes.
But we don't realize it. So if you don't resolve how you're dealing with your personal money, your business is going to suffer at some point.
Yeah, it's true. The two can become entangled with each other.
Yes.
So it's the case of entangling it, which also extends to identity work. We sometimes become our business. Our business is us, but it's kind of detangling that. So I love that. And so we will drop all the details in the show notes so people can go check that out as well. And any other maybe freebies that you want to share.
Yeah, no, sure, definitely. I mean, for the program, there's a wait list. So I'll give you the link for the wait list, and people can join the wait list, and then they'll get information on when we're launching.
Excellent. I love that. And if you want to obviously check out all the links, and if you want to follow Sitsi as well, she's on Instagram, she's on Facebook, and all the details are in the show notes as well. So Sitsi, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've learned a lot from this, as always, from you. There's so much information and wisdom, that you always relay and convey to myself and our audiences. So I just want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Grace. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Definitely. All right, we will leave this episode here.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Connect with me at The Wealth Conversation on Facebook and Instagram so we can continue the discussion. Also, if you enjoy tuning into this podcast, make sure to leave a rating and review everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Until next week, stay focused on becoming the designer of your financial future.